The movie begins amid the global food crisis, where Indonesia has become at the forefront of world economic salvation. To aid in a new initiative to solve world hunger, young newly elected President Indira Siswati throws his hat in the ring, promising a better future for the country. However, an opposing political movement is brewing and plans to disrupt the government, starting with riots on the streets. As these events play out, a former Indonesian Marine, Angga Saputra, anxiously awaits his girlfriend, Sari Nirmala, a well-established on-field news reporter, on the city streets. While her crew prepares to take her away, he presents her with an engagement ring, hoping to wed her soon. Despite fumbling with his speech, she does not hesitate to say yes and kiss him, though she warns he must convince her family first before they proceed. She then leaves for Solo Square to interview President Siswati. 11 years later, in a futuristic Indonesia, Angga awakens in a lavish apartment, having amassed a fortune from his congressional seat. Despite his riches and power, he is constantly reminded about his last day with his former girlfriend, Sari. It turns out that a fierce revolutionary effort, led by the radical group Piranhas, broke out during her interview with Siswati. Based on the report, she and the president were declared missing and assumed dead due to the chaos that arose from the Piranhas' disruption. Fortunately, Angga still keeps the engagement ring inside the coat pocket as a reminder of his undying love for her. Stepping outside for work, he is saddened to see the state of his country, having been seized by the Piranhas party for a long time. Along the drive, he gets an email from his supervisor, Senator Arsoe Ganda, about a meeting involving his draft for an arbitrary farmer bill, enabling the radical party to solely take over Indonesian food and resources distribution, causing widespread famine across the country. After reaching headquarters, the senator welcomes and leads him to a room to meet the four horsemen of Piranha's party, President Ahmad Barona, media mogul, and propaganda affairs leader Hengki Laksono, who always wears a cowboy hat, Jaram paramilitary commander General Adnan Atmadia, and Piranha's party chairman Farid Baskoro. During the secret convention of elites, Angga speaks out of term and insists public relations have hit an all-time low despite the power they hold. He reveals to the men that a separatist faction, Reform, is rising in influence behind the shadows of the Piranhas government. He believes this rebel group has formed due to the ongoing food crisis, hoping to uplift poverty by any means. He then proposes a militaristic approach in dealing with Reform, using a black ops project called Patriot Act. It would eliminate the group and diminish any idea of rebellion, rebuilding Piranha's public image. In exchange for this deal, Angga wants 1% of revenue per year from the authoritarian government. Later, Soe Ganda reports that the four horsemen accept his proposal at the cost of him following the commands of Jaram executive officer Wisnu Nugroho, known for his fanatical approach to law and order. Despite Wisnu's concerning track record, Angga has no choice but to see him at his secret headquarters in Jakarta and relay his proposal. Once there, Wisnu is enthused with the proposal, showing Angga state-of-the-art American gadgetry like a covert cloak showcased by his goons, Gecko and Aula. They argue about ideals that rub Wisnu the wrong way, drawing his gun to threaten Angga. Suddenly, Angga discovers their conversation is recorded by a drone looking out the window. Wisnu immediately alerts his men to pursue the rogue device while Angga steps out to the city streets. Along the way, he spots a mysterious hooded figure, Spec, operating the drone. He chases him as the man flees into the dark alley. After a quick brawl, members of the group Reform appear, and Spec knocks him out to take him to an underground base. Inside a cell, Angga is about to resist his captors when Sari reveals herself, having survived for 11 years to rebel against the Piranhas. During the start of the revolution, she and former President Siswati went into hiding and founded the Reform to combat corruption. She was disheartened to find out Angga became a Piranha's cadre, which is why she did not reveal herself for a long time. Surprisingly, she says he is the father of her daughter, Dinda, born during their exile from the government. With that, Angga becomes weary and disturbed that he is unaware of everything that has happened to her. Suddenly, the Jaram death squad bursts through the room from above. Wisnu demands everyone's surrender as he orders his men in covert cloaks to kill the Reform members. Fortunately, Spec leads Angga, Sari, and Dinda to an escape hatch as he sets Gecko on fire. With Angga exposing himself, Wisnu declares him a Reform collaborator and must be executed for being a traitor to the country. After escaping, the group ends up in an abandoned mall that houses many regime defectors, including some displaced people who have collaborated with rebellion in the past. Angga is surprised to see Siswati, as he reveals himself closely protecting Sari and Dinda. While recuperating, the former president lets him witness the hardship of the group, with the members volunteering to participate in the rebellion with Spec's help in learning combat tactics. After being handed a radio, Angga calls Soe Ganda, who discloses new information about the Patriot Act project. He is mortified to find out Wisness has altered some details about it that will jeopardize his safety now that he is involved with reform. Anga promises to make things right and take down Jerem. To do this, he recruits Spec into his operation. Since he is a former Marine, he tries to collect former team members of Foxtrot 5, starting with OG. He is hesitant at first due to the threat of being hunted down by the government, but is later convinced by his mother to fight for the country in honor of his late father. OG leads Anga to another potential teammate, Bara, who spends most of his time participating in free-for-all brawls. The men witness him overpower several combatants, seeing that he is no match for them. After getting him on board the team, they visit businessman Tino, who agrees to join when Anga promises to give him his expensive watch and half of his storage cash. Later, the group visits young tech-savvy soldier Ethan, who is in the middle of a shirtless livestream. Anga forces him to use his skills in hacking to infiltrate the Jerem database server. However, while this is happening, Owla tracks its location through the webcam's broadcast. He and the Death Squad arrive at the boarding house in an attempt to catch the rebels. Once inside the server, they learn Piranha's plans to kill 7 of its elite members, including Soeganda, as a false flag operation and will pass the blame to the reform. It is a way for Piranhas to cause a mass state-sanctioned genocide, purging any person voicing opposition against the administration. With Spec's warning, they make haste and leave the apartment after burning the evidence. The squad barges inside the room to find no one, though Owla picks up a picture of the Foxtrot group, remembering their faces. Later, Anga returns to the ruined mall and tries to bond with Dinda, who is busy fixing the electrical conduit of a carousel. He tells her about fond memories with his mother and hands her a book of fables, which she reluctantly accepts before leaving. Sari appears and thanks him for their mission, though she fears their plan to intercept the Jerem attack will be dangerous. Anga promises to never leave her again, hoping to rekindle their relationship. Later, he convenes with Foxtrot 6, giving Tino the map to calculate their positioning since he is good at mathematics. On the day of the intercept, Wisnu and the Death Squad shred their construction worker disguises and attack the Senator's convoy. Fortunately, Foxtrot 6 arrives in time, retaliating long enough to recover each of the Senators before Jerem Kodiaks appear. Though the rescue operation is a success, they return to the reform base to find out the Death Squad has infiltrated ahead of time, nearly killing everyone except Siswati, Dinda, and a few other citizens. The sadistic Jerem leader reveals Sari restrained to a chair and taped up, forcing Anga to surrender the Senators, including Soeganda. Sadly, Foxtrot 6 is forced to witness Wisnu hang the Senators, as the graphic execution is being recorded on a camera. He then orders his men to spill gasoline all over the complex to ignite it and rig the elevator cables with a bomb that will ignite with a password. He kicks Anga through a hole onto the second floor and leaves hastily. Fortunately, Foxtrot 6 attempts to break free from their restraints while taking down some Death Squad members. Amid the engulfing flames, Anga finds Sari to rescue her, but the bomb explodes, making the elevator fall. Fortunately, a quick-thinking Dinda manipulates the wiring, stopping the elevator. Sari panics and accidentally pushes herself to the edge of the building, about to fall into the fiery pit. As Anga tries to pull her up, she asks him to take care of their daughter and wake up from reality before letting go of the belt to fall to her death. Though devastated, he hears Dinda calling him Papa and rushes to the elevator using the emergency staircase. He manages to save the trapped civilians, but as soon as he helps boost Siswati out of the elevator falls, leaving him and Dinda fearing for their lives. Fortunately, it stops midway as Foxtrot 6 brings him a rope to climb up before the elevator is completely destroyed. Outside, the Indonesian Marines arrive, after receiving an alert from Spec and sending some troops to look after survivors, including Anga's chauffeur and guard, Sergeant Rhea Pratama. She assists in providing military transport and equipment for Foxtrot 6 as the team executes a suicide mission to destroy Jerem and overthrow Piranha's President Barona. Across the country, a news broadcast shows the video of the Senator's cruel hanging, spreading fear to people for them to obey. While the team watches the report, Tino becomes disillusioned and argues with Anga about his refusal to go through with their mission and die from the consequences of their actions. Later, before the team heads out, Sergeant Rhea presents him with his old Marine uniform, where he keeps the engagement ring of Sari. Anga bids goodbye to Dinda but promises to return for her. As everyone climbs aboard the aircraft, a renewed Tino appears and rejoins them. After briefly reviewing their mission, Foxtrot 6 skydives out of the plane into Piranha's territory amid a thunderstorm. They successfully infiltrate the heavily fortified complex and kill some of the Piranha's security team with traps. While this goes on, the streets of Indonesia are filled with riot police as civilians protest the regime's implemented curfew. Returning to the complex, Anga orders Ethan to hack the server in the control room. At the same time, The rest of the team takes out as many members of Jerem as possible. They check him a little later, only to find out his communications get cut out, as he successfully breaches the network. While Spec snipes down many of Wisnu's men from the room, Bara goads Allah and his team to attack him. His incredible kickboxing skills are no match for the Death Squad, as he kills them one by one. He then fights Allah, and is second in command, killing both men with brutal tactics. Later, a Kodiak tracks down some members of Foxtrot 6, pinning them against the wall. After Spec shoots down the camera, the men try overpowering the mech, with OG leaping to stab the operator in the head when the helmet opens. Unfortunately, he succumbs to his injuries and dies after telling Anga to win the mission. Atop the control tower, Spec takes out all the Jerem guards quickly. Suddenly, a cloaked gecko appears and tries to kill him, only for Spec to stab him in the eye and attack him from behind. While Tino holds off the rest of the Jerem guards, Anga proceeds to look for Wisnu. The injured soldier dies after Spec saves him, though he weakens and falls off the building. In a hallway, Anga gets caught in an explosion and is seriously maimed. Fortunately, Ethan appears, wearing a mechanized suit, and shoots down General Adnan and his men. The surviving men of Foxtrot 6 reach the presidential office room, taking media mogul Henke hostage while forcing him to confess to the public about the Piranha's conspiracy. Unfortunately, Wisnu shoots Henke and stabs Ethan in the shoulder. President Ahmad appears and justifies his plan of genocide, believing the people need to be taught a lesson and must be purged. After thanking him for his proposal, he leaves to make his public address. This allows Anga to take out the Death Squad by blowing up the ceiling. He then attacks Wisnu on the helipad, though he gets shot by his last bullet. The sadistic leader leaves him for dead. Meanwhile, Ahmad proudly announces the Patriot Act at Astana Negara, enabling people to kill any reform members and anyone opposed to the Piranhas. As Anga lies near death, another video plays out on the stage of his conversation with Ahmad, revealing his plan of genocide, which was unknowingly recorded by Ethan's spy camera. The public attempted to storm the stage and riot upon seeing the broadcast. Outside Piranha's HQ, Wisnu and some of his men try to escape, only to face angry townsfolk who watch the broadcast uploaded online by Anga. They corner and violently kill the squad. A week after the chaos, fallen members of the Foxtrot 6 are honored in the news. President Ahmad is detained and awaiting trial, while the Piranha's party falls apart due to the scandal. Later, Anga, Dinda, and a crippled Bara attend their colleague's burial in the cemetery. While looking at an empty casket, Anga reveals out Spec's body has not been recovered. At the same time, Bara tells him Tino has fled since the incident. He then returns the military emblems of OG to his mother, declaring him the best man he has ever known. Some days later, at a peaceful protest, Anga awaits Dinda, walking on the street holding a Kit Kat bar. Somehow, he sees a vision of Sari as she approaches. Dinda shows him the fable book, saddened by losing the last page from the fire. Anga promises her that they will make a new ending for their story now that they are free and living for a better tomorrow in Indonesia. In an undisclosed Marine base in the United States, a clean-looking Spec appears to have survived and is about to climb aboard a helicopter. He clutches a U.S. military badge, hinting that he was a Marine all along. The movie ends by revealing that the team received a donation box full of Kit Kat bars sometime before their mission and rushed in to consume it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.